This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Every time you go into a presidential election year, there's uncertainty. And there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of, if this happens, this could happen. And if that happens, this could happen. And right now we're facing a decision. And I don't just mean like who you're going to vote for president, but what do we value in America relative to consequence for people who break the law under the auspices of their power, using their power and position and wealth and influence to shield themselves from consequence while doing some of the most vile and sinister acts in our country, up to and including treason and attempting to overthrow the government. And a lot of people right now are just thinking that it's just Donald Trump, we got to keep Donald Trump out of office. And that's true. He is absolutely an existential threat to the nation and to democracy itself in America, without a doubt. But I think we also need to pay more attention to the fact that if Ron DeSantis ends up being the nominee and the president of the United States, there's a great likelihood that he's going to pardon Donald Trump for his crimes. He's going to prop up the two-tiered system of justice that we've had for too long and extricate Donald Trump from consequence. You don't have to take my word for it. He was on with Clay Travis and Buck Sexton on their stupid show yesterday and said ultimately the same thing. They asked the question related to how Ron DeSantis or President DeSantis, how he would handle the January 6th insurrectionists, these individuals convicted of seditious conspiracy, many of them with obstruction of government proceedings and entering the Capitol and attacking police. And their main concern is, how are we going to pardon these people? What are we going to do to give them relief? And in the course of the question, of course, you have to ask not only about the individuals who carried out the insurrection, but the mastermind, Donald Trump. Listen to this remarkable few minutes of audio, and it should have you concerned about the future of our country when two of the highly polling Republican candidates for president are hell-bent on taking the country down.
We're talking to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He announced yesterday he is joining us live here to start off the program. I'm sure you agree. You have a law background. You've obviously been very aggressive legally in what you can and cannot do as the governor of Florida. Department of Justice, the FBI, has gone after the January 6th defendants with reckless, I would say, abandon. A big part of being president is pardon powers. Do you think the January 6th defendants deserve to have their cases examined by a Republican president? And if Trump, let's say, gets charged with federal offenses and you are the president of the United States, would you look at potentially pardoning Trump himself based on the evidence that might emerge of those charges?
The DOJ and FBI have been weaponized. We see that. We see it in a variety of contexts. Some of what you mentioned, some of it is the FBI going after parents going to school board meetings. Some of it's how they treat a pro-life demonstrator, how they don't go after people that are attacking pro-lifers. And so what I'm going to do on day one, I will have folks that will get together and look at all these cases who people are victims of weaponization or political targeting, and we will be aggressive at issuing pardons. Now, some of these cases, some people may have a technical violation of the law, but if there are three other people who did the same thing, but just in a context like BLM, and they don't get prosecuted at all, that is uneven application of justice. And so we're going to find ways where that did not happen, and then we will use the pardon power. And I will do that at the front end. You know, a lot of people wait until the end of the administration to issue pardons. We're going to find examples where government's been weaponized against disfavored groups, and we will apply relief as appropriate. But it will be done on a case-by-case basis, because I think you got to make sure that because there's a whole bunch of cases that don't necessarily get headlines. But if people are being treated just because they don't get on TV or something, they're being treated disfavorably. They need to have a fair hearing as well.
And that could be from a grandma who got arrested and prosecuted too much all the way up to potentially Trump himself. Is that fair to say when you analyze what the charges might have been brought on a federal level?
I would say any example of disfavored treatment based on politics or weaponization would be included in that review, no matter how small or how big.
Now, he gave a long, meandering answer and tried, it seemed to me, to avoid directly answering the question about Donald Trump, but was corralled back into it, where he didn't say he wouldn't do it. He said, yeah, we're going to look at all of that. If there was ever any political machinations relative to a prosecution, we're gonna look at that. We're going to have a team of people who are going to be counseling me on pardons. This is dangerous. This is dangerous because we're looking the other way at some of the most serious crimes in our country. We're looking the other way at attempting to end democracy in the United States. So if Donald Trump gets elected president, unlikely he would be prosecuted for another 4 years, at which point, maybe he won't even be alive anymore because he's an old guy. And if Ron DeSantis becomes president, not only would he not be prosecuted, Donald Trump, he would likely be pardoned, completely wiping the slate clean of all of the many crimes he has committed, from obstruction of justice to financial crimes, up to and including inciting an insurrection against the United States of America. The Republican Party in 2023, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have. We have two major parties with any effectiveness whatsoever relative to governance, the Republicans and the Democrats. And this is what we have. Again, the bench is shallow, not a lot of talent, but they do have one stated objective, and that is to end American democracy. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. Follow me on social media. I'd love to see you there. I'm at Dollemore just about everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of those places. And if you want to help support my work and produce my work, click the join button below. Become a channel member. Click the other button below. Give a super thanks. Or go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I will see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.